I spent 45 minutes to an hour every day going to work, and it's the most boring part of the day. So I thought I should use that time a little bit more efficiently and try to make some videos while I'm driving. And in this very first episode, I thought I should share my story, share how I started tattooing. And tattooing is what allowed me to be here in the US, be here in California, have this amazing car, have my life and everything. So I owe pretty much everything I have to the fact that I became a tattoo artist and I was persistent enough. So I thought it might be helpful to tell this story and to maybe inspire some people to be a little bit more brave and start doing something that you're afraid to do. In 2011, I was in my final year of college and I was studying interior design. And at the same time, I was so depressed because I could not see myself doing that for the rest of my life. And even though I still love design and interior design and architecture, I probably couldn't work as an interior designer or architect. At the same time of my life, my father died and I was involved in the funerals and all that stuff. So it was a pretty dark time in my life. I had this crisis of not knowing what to do with my life, and I tried to figure out what else can I do. And I always liked drawing, but I never thought there was a way for me to make money and make living being an artist, because I never knew like any rich and famous artists. And to me, being an artist meant to be always poor. And I've been poor all my life. I did not want to continue that tradition. And at some point, completely as an accident, I found some beautiful black and gray tattoos online, mostly made by artists in SoCal. And it just impressed me so much. I've never seen anything like that before. I've never thought that I would have a tattoo or I would be anywhere near tattoo artists or that culture at all. So it was surprising to me to see that I could like something like black and gray tattoos. And it was so mind-blowing that I could like really be impressed by something that I never completely thought before, that I started doing more research and trying to figure out what's the process of tattooing and how those artists get to the point where they are in their careers. And I spent weeks or maybe months just watching videos on YouTube, reading different interviews and articles on the internet with those artists, and just trying to see how is it possible to like make good living and travel the world and be able to make some art and make people happy with your art. So after a few weeks, I would say, I realized that I got some skills in drawing, and I've been doing that for most of my life. So why not trying this new thing? So my question at that time was, how do people become tattoo artists? And in the US, the most popular way to become a tattoo artist and the most known was to get an apprenticeship in a tattoo shop or under a bigger tattoo artist. And it could be possible in Russia at that moment too, but I couldn't find any artists in Moscow who would do the style of tattoos that I liked. So if you learn from somebody directly, you should appreciate their art and their experience, and you kind of want to learn from them because you like their style. And there was nobody that I really liked in Russia, in Moscow at that moment in 2011. There was a lot of tattoo artists, mostly doing either traditional tattoos or doing some color realism or maybe doing some other style. couple of well-known artists doing black and gray as well, but not black and gray I liked, not the type of tattoos I wanted to do. So when I first saw those black and gray tattoos, they were mostly Chicano art, sculptures, girls' skulls and all that stuff in black and gray, either fine line or a little bit more realistic. And the artists I liked at that moment were Jose Lopez, Jun Cha, Eric Marcinezin, Carlos Torres, and nobody in Russia back then was doing this kind of style, or at least I couldn't find them. So the apprenticeship idea just wouldn't work for me. I started doing some research on courses. If I went to a famous tattoo studio and I just learned under that shop, just learn the basics, how tattoo machines work, how the skin works, how do you do it all safely and efficiently and stuff like this. And there were a few big studios that offered these kind of courses and education stuff, but to be honest, it was just very expensive. And now I understand that these studios were just trying to make money on this educational thing, while they didn't really have any really cool artists to teach. And I couldn't afford it at that time anyway, so that didn't work either. And I found that even to buy tattoo machines and all the equipment you need, I would spend at that time a good amount of money, which again I didn't have. And also what bothered me is that even if I had all that equipment, I wouldn't know what to do with it because there wasn't too much educational content available. So I decided that I need to be in the tattooing industry, to be around other tattoo artists, to be able to talk to them and ask for advice and stuff like this. And I didn't know how to do that because if I'm an outsider just coming to a tattoo shop or coming to a big artist, they probably wouldn't care. So I figured that I would need to get into that industry somehow. And I found this brand called Solen Clothing, which is crazy popular now, and it was already crazy popular and well known back then. They were doing t-shirts with prints by famous tattoo artists and a bunch of other stuff like backpacks, hoodies, hats, and stuff like this. And I found that there is a distributor for that brand in St. Petersburg in Russia, but there is no dealers in Moscow where I lived. And I thought if I get into selling this brand in Moscow and become a dealer, that would allow me to be around all the tattoo artists who like this brand and who appreciate their products. So I used pretty much all the money I had at that time to order some t-shirts, maybe like 20, 30 t-shirts, made a website, made a social network group about this brand, and just started promoting and just started like messaging different artists, different tattoo shops that I have this stuff and I'm the only one in Moscow selling it directly from the company. And very quickly I found this tattoo studio pretty close to where I lived, was interested in having like a little corner with the t-shirts and all the rest of the products in their shop. So we made a deal. I bought some equipment to put t-shirts on the wall and things like that. And we split the profits. The first like 20, 30 t-shirts was sold out like in a week. And I got more on this money and more. And I was doing that for a few months. And that allowed me to be in that tattoo shop and talk to those artists like pretty much I'm one of them instead of just being a complete outsider, which was really cool to me because I wasn't too shy about talking to them. I wasn't scared And being in the shop and with those artists also allowed me to join tattoo conventions. So I did a few tattoo conventions in Moscow and St. Petersburg, not even being a tattoo artist, but just being a dealer for selling clothing. So I had my own booth. I printed all the banners, all that stuff, all the flyers. I did some discount codes and stuff like this. And the most important part of being there is that it just allowed me to be to talk to other artists and to see how they work, to see what equipment they use, what tattoo machines, what armrests. So just to learn a little bit more about this job. And I've been selling t-shirts for about almost a year. And then I decided that I know enough and I'm ready to start and get into the actual tattooing. So I sold all my t-shirts and everything I had in the store to the owner of the tattoo shop. And I bought some tattoo equipment actually from the same shop because they had some stuff for sale. So I bought a tattoo machine, I bought some pre-made needles and all the plastic disposables, all that stuff. I bought some practice skin so I could start trying at home to actually use the machine and use the needles. And that was such an exciting time in my life because I was trying something new, something that I was really hyped about, and I didn't know too much, but I felt like I knew something and I knew enough for me to at least have the courage to start. So I got all the equipment, I got rid of all the t-shirts, and the equipment I bought was completely garbage. It was a shitty Chinese tattoo machine, coil tattoo machine, pre-made needles, plastic tubes which bent, and if you tried any coil machines, you know what I'm talking about. Disposable grips, which is a horrible idea for a coil tattoo machine. Pre-made needles were from China as well and pretty low quality. Power supply, again, just cheap Chinese power supply that everyone was using at that time. And I just didn't care because I was so excited to try this new thing, and I didn't really know how this cheap equipment would make my life so much harder. I just wanted to try and do something. So I assembled all that, I learned how to use it, how to set up coil tattoo machine, which is not the same thing as modern rotary machines. It takes some time, it takes some practice to even make it work. And I started doing some stuff on fake skin, some simple designs, roses, lettering, how to pull lines and things like that. And I was just watching all the YouTube videos I could find. And there were not too many of those at that time, but I tried to just absorb any piece of information I could find. There was Facebook, there was Instagram, even though it wasn't that big. And at that time, there were forums. So pretty much like Reddit now, but different types of forums. And I found this forum for tattoo artists, and I was just reading thread by thread all day, just trying to educate myself and just learn how to use that machine, why this machine doesn't work the way I want, how to adjust the tension on the needle, how many rubber bands I need to wrap around the needle to make it work, and things like that. There was a lot more stuff to learn than it is now, because now it's so much more simple. You just get like any good quality rotary tattoo machine, either Bishop Rotary or any other brand, and it just works. You don't have to worry about the tension, how hard it hits the skin and all that stuff. It just works. And now you just need to adjust your skills, adjust your hands, adjust your movements to the machine, because machine is already nearly perfect and you just need to learn how to use it. At that time, it was the opposite. You needed to build and set up the machine so it works the way you want. And when you're just starting tattooing, you don't really know how you want that machine to work. you have no idea whether it should hit harder or slower, whether you need a slower machine or faster machine. And with a coil machine, it's completely different from rotaries, as you might know. And some machines are built as faster machines and some machines are just slower. And that took me a good amount of time, and I can't say I figured it out. I was just trying to make it a little bit easier and better every day. And after a few weeks of practicing on fake skin, it felt almost too easy to do a tattoo. And I looked at the roses I did, I looked at even some simple portraits I did on the fake skin, and they kind of looked good to me. I didn't think that I still need to learn a lot before I try tattooing on a real human. And at that time, I had a friend who just started to work at a tattoo shop as an apprentice. And actually in the same tattoo shop I was selling clothing at. And she was learning how to tattoo. And at the same time, she wanted to get some tattoos on her. And she didn't care too much about the quality of those tattoos. She was just so into it that she allowed me to practice on her. So, because she was doing apprenticeship at the tattoo shop and the owner knew me, they allowed us to stay after the shop was closed, so at night, and do some tattoos. My first tattoo, it was a nightmare because she didn't know much about tattooing either. She wanted me to do the tattoo on her ribs. And now I know, and you probably know too, that ribs, it's probably one of the hardest placements on the body to tattoo, and especially for a beginner who doesn't know anything about tattooing, because you need to stretch the skin a lot, and the skin is much softer, there is not much fat underneath, and it's just very stretchy, and the stencil doesn't look as it should when the person lays down and stretches the ribs. And I didn't know anything of that when I was doing it. So she wanted to get a few roses on the ribs, and my plan for the first session was just to outline those roses. So I put the stencil on. It was before the shop was closed, so there were still some artists there who were like watching me and trying to encourage me to not be scared, which really helped, but at the same time it was a little bit more stressful because there were professionals around me watching me and I had no idea what to do. I mean, I thought I knew because I've done a few pieces on fake skin, but actually I didn't know because I've never worked on real skin. And as I found out that day, it's a completely different experience. So I started trying to pull the lines just to outline those roses. And I realized how much different it is from fake skin, just because you don't feel that vibration on the machine and on the needle, and the skin is way softer than silicone. There was just a lot of differences. I didn't know how to stretch the skin properly, and without stretching the skin, it's almost impossible to pull a good quality line. So it was embarrassing, but at the same time I was so motivated to actually figure it out. We spent, I believe, maybe 5 to 6 hours that night. So we stayed there till maybe 3, 4 in the morning, me and that friend. And I was just trying to outline a couple of roses. It was horrible. At the same time, it was so humiliating because it showed me that I needed to learn a lot more before I can actually look for clients and start offering my tattoos even for free. I needed to learn how to actually use the machine on skin. And I was very conscious about ruining people's skin. I didn't want to do that. At the same time, I didn't want to practice on myself because I liked my skin and I didn't want to hurt me. And I would rather get tattooed by a professional than a newbie and a dumbass like myself. So I did not have any tattoos at the moment, and I wasn't planning to get any tattoos at that moment because there were no artists around me that I really liked. So I wanted to save my skin for the actually good tattoo artists that inspired me to start tattooing, and not just waste my skin on any ideas I had at that moment. Because if I started to get tattooing at that time, I would probably have some letterings on my forearms and letterings here and there. And now I understand that that would be a horrible decision and I would regret it and I would have to laser it off because, well, that's a different story. So I did that first couple of roses, just outlined them. It took me, like I said, 4 or 5 hours at least, just to do that shitty outline around the roses. And it didn't really look like a good outline either. Some lines were not deep enough and some lines were way too deep, so the inks just blew under the skin. But I was still so hyped about trying this that I couldn't wait to do more and more and more. So we let that outline heal for a few weeks and then we continued working on it. I tried to do some shading and they allowed me to start a little bit earlier so I could get a little bit more advice from those artists. And they showed me some tricks how to do this and that on the skin and told me like what I was doing wrong, which really helped. But at the same time, I was still doing very badly, especially compared to the fake skin I was working on before. But I was trying, and luckily she was still fine with me practicing on her. So we spent like 3-4 sessions just doing those roses and trying different types of shading. And I'm really grateful for that girl for letting me do that, because otherwise I don't know how else I would do those first steps in tattooing. So before I even started promoting and started like doing any work on other friends, I spent maybe 4 or 5 sessions with her, just doing those roses and trying to figure out how to do these basic things like stretching the skin, adjusting the machine and things like that. And after that, I found a couple more friends who always knew that I was drawing a lot, and they allowed me to do some stuff on them. And I started with really simple tattoos, simple lettering on better parts of the body like arms and legs, much easier parts of the body, I would say. And that's kind of the beginning of the story. I just got to work, so I'm gonna stop here and continue next time. Let me know if you have any questions, if you want me to talk about something else. I'll be happy to spend my time going to the shop a little bit more productive and maybe give you some advice or tell you a cool story or just answer your questions. Have a great day and I'll see you tomorrow.